Holy shit, my dudes. The information we talked about yesterday was not the only information that came out. We had a mountain of information in the past 24 hours. It's pretty insane. I said at the end of yesterday's video, I'll say it again really quickly, I have a problem with the way they give info to us about this game because we've had these like dry spells of pretty much nothing, maybe little tidbits here and there, and then all of a sudden yesterday we got this insane info dump to the point that it's probably we probably learned more about this game yesterday than we did at Tokyo Game Show. And like that just doesn't make sense to me. How is that even a thing? But anyways, when it comes to today's information, we learned that you can actually level up weapons and make weapons stronger in this game, which is something that I was absolutely not expecting. We learned how you actually learn character abilities, and it is from the weapons. That's something I talked about, I think, a couple weeks ago, a month or two ago, whatever, and I actually got that right, which is pretty awesome. We get a look at the character progression menu, which is similar to like a Final Fantasy X Sphere Grid or a Final Fantasy XIII Crystarium. We get a better look at how Classic Mode is going to work. We get to see a list of some of Cloud's swords within this game, which is pretty cool. We also get to see Aerith's house both inside and outside of her house, and we also get to see like the modern version of the sense materia. And there might even be more than that. That's just off the top of my head right now. So yeah, when I said there's all kinds of information out there, I wasn't kidding. Let's hop right into it. We're going to start with the Classic Mode explanation. So for those out there that may not know what Classic Mode is yet, this is pretty much your modern version of a turn-based style. Your characters fight automatically, you just issue commands to them. So we have this screenshot from the menu. They're hovered over Classic Mode. We have a description at the bottom that says, the player-controlled character will attack and defend automatically, allowing you to focus on executing commands. The battle difficulty is the same as easy, which is a problem. A lot of people were wondering if Classic Mode would have any sort of challenge to it, but if the difficulty is the same as easy, then it's going to be easy. Also, if you just look at this menu, you see that there's Classic, Easy, and Normal, which means there's no hard difficulty with the base game. That's a problem too. For me personally, I pretty much always play my games on the normal difficulty. That way there's that slight challenge to it, but you can also just enjoy the game. But I know other people like the harder difficulties, so they're going to have to remedy that at some point. Onto the Aerith-related photos, we have a look inside the Sector 5 church, but at a different angle to where you can actually see the front door, which is where Reno's going to come through with some of these soldiers, and Cloud's actually going to have a fight inside the church against Reno, which is absolutely new, which is going to be awesome. We also get a look inside of Aerith's house, which there's not much to say here. It's the inside of Aerith's house. We've already seen this anyways, like almost 2 years ago with some concept art, so it's not exactly brand new, but you get to see what it looks like in-game. Next up, we have the outside of Aerith's house, which obviously looks fantastic, especially when you compare it to the original game. The basic layout of the location is relatively the same. House on the left, kind of river waterfall going through the middle, and a garden of sorts on the right. But obviously super updated for a modern game. It still stands out within the slums itself, right? It's still a beautiful location, but they've actually added a ton of like mechanical debris around there that makes it kind of look dirty and gross, but also you have all the flowers and greenery and stuff. Next, we're going to move on to the modern sense materia, which is now called the assess materia. Not really sure why they keep changing the name of stuff. They changed the name of a couple bosses, but whatever. Anyways, as you can see, it gives you a crazy amount of information. A description of the enemy's name, its health, its current health, actually, when you use it. But it also tells you its weaknesses, lesser resistances, status elements, greater resistances, immunities, absorbed elements, etc. But actually, in the yellow, you get a cool description that says, ice attacks rapidly fill their stagger gauge. They protect themselves with barrier when low on health or isolated, which is good to know. Like, you come across a grass strike by itself, it's going to use barrier. You kill any of the other enemies around it, it's going to use barrier. It's good to know, less physical damage. You also get to see the rewards you get from killing them, the experience, the AP, the guild, the items they can potentially drop, but also the stealable items, which we knew stealing was going to be in the game, but I don't know if we've heard or seen anything about that yet. And then lastly, you get the battle log on the bottom right that actually tells you the number defeated, the number staggered, the number assessed. So as you can see, the assess materia or the modern sense materia gives you quite a bit of information once you use it. So now let's move on to the juicier bits of info. Want to get these smaller stuff, if you want to call it that, out of the way first. So right here we have the weapon progression menu, and it's kind of hard to know what everything does because they don't really give us that much of a description of this image. But you can see that it says Buster Sword Core, growth materia encased within a Buster Sword. Use Cloud skill points to unlock skills and enhance the weapon's capabilities. And you see that it gives you attack plus 5, magic attack power plus 5, max HP plus 100, and strong attack damage in Punisher mode, 5% boost. Now I have no idea if the other orbs you're seeing in this image are related to the Buster Sword, or if those are the cores for the other weapons that Cloud can get, or if maybe just the small ones around the Buster Sword core are related to the Buster Sword only. No idea, man. They don't tell us this stuff. The only description we got was enhancing weapons. Weapons also contain core materia, and you can upgrade them to increase the power of your equipment. Naturally, that includes Cloud's iconic Buster Sword. So it's nice to know now that we actually do get skill points, probably whenever we level up, which we weren't sure about because we've seen a couple of characters level up, like Cloud and I think Bear at least once in one of the gameplays, but you never seen them earn a skill point, so we didn't know if that was ever going to be a thing, which is why we never thought there'd be any sort of character progression menu. But it turns out there is, and the leak we got however long ago that said that it was kind of similar to the Sphere Grid or the Crystarium was correct, which is the only reason I cover leaks on my channel, because sometimes they're true. And lastly, we have the weapons upgrade menu, which gives us quite a bit to talk about. First up, we're looking at the top left. You see the list of weapons that Cloud has available, which is the Iron Blade, the Hard Edge, the Nail Bat, the Buster Sword. If you look below their names, it's kind of small. You can see their actual available materia slots. The Buster Sword has 2 that are connected. The Nail Bat has 0. The Hard Edge has 2 that are connected, 1 solo. And the Iron Blade has 3 solos. None are connected. The Iron Blade is the only new weapon on this list. The other ones were already in the original Final Fantasy VII. And actually, by the name Iron Blade, it's kind of a new weapon altogether, because the Iron Sword is a recurring weapon within the Final Fantasy series. There's nothing actually called the Iron Blade that I could find. And judging by the Iron Blade's materia slots, I'd say this is probably going to be the second weapon that you find within the game, because it has 1 more than the Buster Sword, but they aren't connected. And then the Hard Edge has the same amount as the Iron Blade, but 2 are connected, which means it's 1 up on the Iron Blade. It's a better thing because it has connected materia slots. You also have the SP numbers next to the weapons, which I'm not entirely sure what that means. We do know SP is skill points, but is this how many you need to max the weapon? How many you've spent so far? Who knows? I have no idea. You can also see in the bottom left that the Buster Sword has 5 total weapon levels. Maybe spending skill points is how you level up the weapons. And we also see that you actually get focus thrust from the Buster Sword, which is a bit surprising to me, because I figured because it's the very first weapon that we'd get the Braver ability from it, since Braver was your default limit break in the original game. Something else that's important is that if you get the proficiency for a weapon ability maxed, you can actually use that ability with any of the other weapons. And you increase a weapon ability's proficiency by using it over and over, which is pretty similar to how you unlocked the limit breaks in the original game, right? So it's kind of a nice little touch. And one last thing I want to point out from these images, I know we've been on them for a few minutes now, but there's just so much information. As we already talked about, the Buster Sword has 2 materia slots that are linked together on this menu, but if you actually go over to the weapon progression menu, you can see that there's actually 3. Which I'm assuming you unlock as you level up the weapon, increasing the Buster Sword's core or whatever, which to me is a big indication of something about this game. Which might be that you don't actually have to switch weapons as you progress through the game if you don't want to, because usually you'd come across another weapon as you're going through levels, and the weapon's generally going to be stronger than your weapon and have more materia slots, but if you can level up your weapons and unlock more materia slots, you may not have to switch weapons. You could probably carry the Buster Sword throughout the entire game if you wanted to. I think that's pretty damn cool. I'm not sure if anybody else has noticed this materia slot thing. I've only seen Night Sky Prince's video, and he did not point it out, and he's usually pretty in-depth with this stuff. Anyways, my dude, that's pretty much the video. That's everything that we missed yesterday. It's tons of information. It's kind of crazy. And like I said earlier, it sucks that they don't talk about the game more consistently, because they're only hurting themselves, right? If they go for, 1, 2, 3, 4 months not really talking about the game, people are talking about and paying attention to other games. It would have only helped them to, kind of drip feed us this information. That's just my opinion. Anyways, as always, I pass off to you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts on all this information? What was your favorite piece of information we got? Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and want to stay up to date with more Final Fantasy VII Remake content. It is nice to be able to talk about this game again. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @the_David. And my Discord links to my social networks are in the description and in the outro. Later, guys.